just wanted to get the chopper in.
You got me chopper.
Got your chopper. Well, don't go too near the edge, Sam. With the high heels.
Yeah, but it's frozen.
Still water.
That'd be a story to tell.
Because if he's standing right on the tip there, nothing behind him.
He's going to go in. He's going to go. You've got a great pattern on your ear from those.
What?
Stay there like that. Okay.
Cheers.
Who just said something about black flies?
I did.
Way to go.
Thank you.
What's that?
Hope that's not part of our helicopter.
Where does this piece go?
What do you mean I got 3 pieces left over? Look on my champagne bottle was half empty. And our pilot looked really happy. Oh yeah, that was done from, huh? Don't know what you hear.
Why are all the pilots so good looking? Are they from some acting school or something?
That's a long throw.
From there, my friend.
If you hit the water from here, I'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, there's a. Sometimes you can get like right out on one of those points and chuck it, and I mean you can just barely hit the water even at that. Maybe where he is, you might be able to see it.
The problem is you can't see it when you throw it.
Yeah.
I mean, you think you'd be able to chuck it, and hit it right in the middle of the thing. But
Watch yourself, Sam.
here's no way.
Oh, I am. You watch it.
That's a good shot, dude. No way.
You just can't see when you get to the water part. Well, I didn't see any splash.
Just a bit further over to the right. You get out on the edge and you do look as if you're...
Can't make it.
Okay. Well, if you go out where she is, then you might be able to see it hit the water from there.
Be careful, Sam. You and me kittens.
Your head off.
Too safe from there on.
You gotta get it from here. Should be okay.
Yeah. No?
Still couldn't see it.
You can't hear the kaplunk.
I'm going to do a real girly throw.
Sure.
Yeah, you'll throw yourself over.
Go right in.
You know my holiday disasters.
Yeah.
Oh, made it just 3 feet down.
We had a group hug, Tom. You missed it.
Glad. Glad. put your head by the doors and slam it a couple times?
Maybe $80,000 a year just for insurance alone. Wow. And then, you know, if you get a hangar and fuel and maintenance, and I mean, it's just no way.
So you'd have to do quite a few of these trips then to make it up, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, if you had one just for fun, you'd have to have a pretty good disposable income to throw around, because it's just burning money. You know, it's
Like pickles with your champagne?
you know, trying to get yourself from point A to point B. You know, a lot of doctors will use like a little piston two-seaters to get from hospital to hospital, or you know, say you do, you know, you manage a lot of project sites. You can kind of get 3 or 4 sites in a day, but you're not.
Sam's right. Paul's wrong. Here comes the steam, Sam. Perhaps it was because I was stood at the back. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Go on, I'm going in there. No, I mean inside, go and book your wedding.
Bit lost.
I've got it yeah, this one. Has Amanda stayed here before?
And I realized that they're here all week on a matter
Sir, I need you to.
Oh, it'll come out. He wasn't kidding when he said the strip was a parking lot.
I already get me that. It'll be bigger than Benny Hill.
Benny
It'll
Hill.
be Benny and Hill.
And he did. It was big over here.
No, Benny Hill.
Benny Hill. We had it in the 70s and then it became popular over here.
When it became, yeah.
I love him. Maybe you said it right y'all. This is a Venetian meal called a Palazzo. No, right here, what it This is, by the way, let me update you. This is the weekend.
Oh, okay.
So all of us on time.
That is just
I'm telling you, the comments because she get nothing. She's got trouble. What is the word for? You a gentle. Your wife is gentle. She said she got trouble.
That's Donald Trump for you.
billion.
Which casino's that?
No, this is
For the casinos here. 10.6 billion.
That is unbelievable.
Profit now. As they say, 82 Okay, you go.
okay. What was it wrong told me it were?
Oh,
What was it wrong told me it were?
What, Happy New Year in Chinese?
Factual.
Oh, I got another one.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You're entertaining.
Entertaining. I was Santa and David, all wrapped up in one. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Is that the strip?
No, that's the south. That's the North Strip. That's the old Vegas. What a view, man. the lights on at the Luxor, look.
Maybe you'll hurt me. Maybe you'll break me. Break me. Break.
They were having fun. Night out in Las Vegas. I would have died when I was 13 years old. My mom was in school. If my mom would have been at school. Yeah. My grandma wasn't as much trouble as mom.
While the ride is in motion, smile for the cameras and enjoy your ride.
Yeah, we'll be careful, Frank.
Alone. Well, I need to give you a camera. Let me see how brave you are. What is it? Whatever you prefer.
Welcome back. Thank you for riding the Big Shot. Remember to pick up your personal belongings as you exit. Your ride photos are located at the
employees back and forth to Area 51. The top secret base, it doesn't exist, so they must not be here either. But I'll tell you more about that later on. Well, made out of McCarran. Nothing's doubtful, but they hold us up sometimes, so it's good to be off the ground here. We're leveling off at about 3,000 feet above sea level, which puts us right around 1,000 above the ground. Kind of our average cruising altitude throughout the flight. A little higher in some spots, lower in others, depending on what I'm trying to show you. GPS is currently telling me our speed is about 112, 113 knots across the ground, so about 120 miles an hour, which doesn't seem like it from up here, but we're doing okay. Now we'll go into the history of Vegas, the size, the population, things like that on the way home. More impressive coming back tonight when you can see the entire valley well lit up versus about a third of it. And you'll find throughout the flight I have lots of facts and figures and trivia for you. Some interesting, some boring. I'll try and filter out the boring stuff. We'll see how it goes, though. No guarantees.
Oh, the candles can do miracles. Just you wait and see.
Now, the first thing I pass on to you is in regards to all the pools you might see in the backyards. They say that Vegas has the greatest number of swimming pools per capita than anywhere else in the U.S., which I guess I believe it. Like 1.5 million people in the desert trying to cool off, so there's a big demand for that.
Oh, the candles can do miracles. Just you wait and see. Believe me.
Now about to cross over the 515, 93, 95 highway. You've made a right turn, you'd head on down south through one of the suburbs of Vegas. That one down there is known as Henderson, Nevada. Beyond Henderson, through the hills, is Boulder City and the Hoover Dam. We'll see both of those coming back tonight. Now, this big old nasty looking pools of water off to the right in front of us belong to Nevada Electric Power Company. Contrary to popular belief, we don't receive all electricity from the Hoover Dam. Only a small percentage comes off the dam. The rest is generated through other resources. This one, I believe, is natural gas-fired.
My cousin was
Now, being in the desert, water is obviously a commodity out here, so they try and recycle and reclaim the wastewater as best as possible. They're able to release a lot of it back into Lake Mead, which is in the distance in front of us. I'll talk to you about Mead in a few minutes. Hopefully it is pretty clean, and that's where drinking water begins, so hopefully they did a pretty decent job. One of the ways of draining the water into Mead is the Las Vegas Wash. It's like a natural drainage in front of us, a little culvert, if you will, surrounded by yellow and brown plants, as you can see. I point this out only because I have some trivia for you in regards to the Las Vegas Wash on the way home. I wanted to introduce you to it. Make sure you know what we're talking about. We'll talk about it later. The stadium off to our right is Sam Boyd Stadium. Outdoor concerts, events, the college football team plays there as well. But I'll be honest, I don't follow college ball. I have no idea how well they do. Or did. Now, how's everyone doing with the temperature? I cracked the heat on a little bit, take the edge off. If you guys get too hot, let me know, or too cold, whatever. I can turn the fan on however you need.
When we talk to you, does everyone hear, or just you hear you?
Nope, everyone can hear.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Now, we're going to end up going about 80 miles to the east as the crow flies to get to the canyon. Coming back home, we'll oftentimes we're able to utilize the casinos on the strip as a reference. You can see which way we're headed that way. Although, sometimes we get some haze that builds up in the evenings. Today's pretty nice. I traditionally offer a lot of views, a little backup, a little dark-colored mountain off to the left over here. You see that thing from like 30 miles away, so you can tell which way we're headed. Now coming to view is Lake Las Vegas in front of us. It'll pass by the right side in just a second. I have to call the tower real quick before I can make a return here. Las Vegas off to a right over here, 526-acre lake surrounded by multi-million-dollar custom homes and a few golf courses thrown in for good measure. When they're done with construction in a few years, they say they will have spent about $4 billion, which will give them close to 3,000 residential units, 5 championship golf courses, and 6 resorts. Now we'll pass by it again on the way home. I'll give you some more facts and figures on it. Right now they pass on the cost of housing. When I started flying here a couple of years ago, the average home, they say it was about $700,000. And I looked on the web a couple of weeks ago at the developers out here to see what they had to offer. Well, I guess what you could call starter homes out here were about $2.1, $2.2 million. So, I'm still saving my pennies. We'll see how it goes. I'm not really confident yet. You may have noticed we descended down a bit, obviously. We're clear of the controlled airspace, so I can kind of pick and choose what I want to show you and where we want to be, for the most part anyway. The canyon is about 75 miles to the east, and aircraft coming back from the canyon on tours typically stay on the north shore of Lake Mead, flying right across the top of Lava Butte over here on the left at about 3,000 feet. That's another reason why we're down here at 2,400. Stay well clear of them. I don't hear them as of yet, but I'm not always making radio calls either, so we'll stay down here and stay out of their way. Now, in addition to the few roadways you might see out here, we have a lot of washes all around. It's like dry stream beds, pretty much. It was explained to me that dirt has been sun-baked for so long and wind-blown in the springtime, there's very little topsoil on the surface. It's quite hard and densely packed, and any kind of water hitting the surface never actually soaks in. It stays on top, heading downstream, carve out these little channels, if you will. Some kind of small, some quite large, like the one we're about to pass over here. They actually had to install pipes, it looks like, beneath the roadway to prevent it from washing away. Now, we only receive about 6 to 8 inches of rainfall on average annually. Well, we've had kind of a wet winter so far. With that being said, we still have flash floods that occur out here, especially the end of summer, beginning of fall, when the thunderstorms roll through town. And it's no small surprise these washes do play a factor in the flooding. You're at the bottom of a couple of washes when they converge together. There's your flash flood after only a couple of inches of rain. I mean, they've had cars float down the street, trailer parks destroyed, homes damaged, the whole deal. Really kind of ugly. Now, you might see some heavy equipment in front of us. That all belongs to the complex off to the left about 10 o'clock. They say that's a gypsum plant. It's been around for decades and decades. And I guess the dome building on the right side of the complex was used in filming some of the scenes from the James Bond movie Diamonds Are Forever back in the late 60s. There was a car chase scene they saved from there through Sunrise Mountain, and of course downtown. So if you want to see what downtown looked like, that's one way to see it 35 years ago. Kind of Hollywoodified, if I can make up that word, but still not a bad way to see which casinos existed, which ones didn't. Now, the further we fly from Vegas, the more remote, the more desolate it appears. Obviously, it's the desert. That's the way it works. That being said, you could be curious as to what we're going to find out here for wildlife. There is a chance of finding wildlife. We see it, probably every flight in the summertime and once every day or two in the wintertime. You never know. What have we seen in the past? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's see. Mountain goats, bighorn sheep, wild horses, mule deer. Just 3 days ago, I saw cows, of all things, up on a plateau. I'll try and find them for you again. And what looked to be buffalo or bison about a week and a half ago. Not to mention we come across ravens, bald eagles, golden eagles, red-tailed hawks. Once we walk around down to the bottom of the canyon, we could come across rattlesnakes, scorpions, ground squirrels, lizards, centipedes, all kinds of great stuff. If we're lucky, some bats might come out later tonight. We'll see how it goes. During the flight, if I see anything, I'll be sure to speak up. I'll point it out to you. We're not allowed to harass animals by circling around. Kind of a one-shot deal for photos, literally. But I can try and do my best to make sure we have a chance to look at it by slowing down, putting a bit of a turn in, have it pass by, on one side or the other. And likewise, if you see anything, speak up. Let us all know. Try to make sure we get a chance to look at it. Now, I should probably clarify in case I confused you a bit by telling you the Grand Canyon's that way, and we're heading this way. Part of the tour is the Valley of Fire. We want to take you there in the daytime when the sunlight, when there is some sunlight out versus coming back later this evening. More impressive with the sunlight on it. So we'll head to the Valley of Fire first and see the Hoover Dam on the way home. They light that up so we can see it no matter how dark it is. To get there, we'll cross over the ridge in front of us, which drops us into Hidden Valley. Quick hop over the Muddy Mountains. We're in the Valley of Fire. It's like 15-minute flight versus an hour's drive, so we're doing okay. Once we're there, we look around for a couple minutes, then we start heading towards the east to get to the canyon.
I suppose you'll tell us why they call it the Valley of Fire. It's not really on fire.
No. Only the appearance. I'll explain this off once we see it, and if not, I'll definitely clarify it for you. hidden valley. Making a few bumps coming through here. We do almost every day with the wind that comes around these hills. Don't worry too much if you feel any turbulence. By now you've guessed it, we're looking at rocks today. All kinds of rocks. It's okay, it's kind of fun. The Grand Canyon's made of rocks, Valley Fire's made of rocks. Common types of rocks they say you'll spot are volcanic, sedimentary, metamorphic. Volcanic, obviously, from volcanoes. Metamorphic was created when the rocks were under pressure and heat. Over time, the structure actually changed. And the sedimentary rock, they say, was formed in the ocean-covered area, millions, if not billions, of years ago. You see, they say the Earth is right around 4.5 billion years old, plus or minus a couple of months. And in 4.5 billion years, the climate has changed a fair amount, warming and cooling, melting and refreezing the polar ice caps. Now, in doing so, it caused the mean sea level to rise and fall. When it rose, it covered areas such as this in ocean water, allowing sedimentary rock formation to take place. Sandstone, limestone, and shale, three more common types you'll find out here. A lot of the rock layers have been subjected to tectonic plate movements. We know plate tectonics is the cause of earthquakes. It's also the cause of mountain ranges being created, destroyed, shifted, moved around. Okay, what I'm getting at is these layers of rock have been fractured and tilted, so much so that the edge of the rock has now been exposed to rain coming down from above. They say over time it's chipped away at it, creating triangular shapes on the sides of the hills. Some very subtle, some very distinctive. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. Now, as far as the dirt roads you might see around us, in front of us, we'll see more throughout the flight. At one point in time, they could have been utilized to access mine shafts in the area. Mining was big in the area at one point in time, still is in many parts of Nevada, and I'll cover that part later. Nowadays, typically we see people out here buzzing around on, four-wheel drives, ATVs, dirt bikes, which may beg the question, well, who owns the property? Is that legal? Well, if it's not a state park or a national recreation area or Indian reservation, it could be owned by the National Government Bureau of Land Management, if you will. Now, does the BLM allow people to go ride out here on their own? I guess they do. I really don't know. I don't know if they actually try to enforce stopping people. I see people out here all the time. Now, the mountains kind of off in front of us to the left and right are called the Muddy Mountains. I'm told they're a combination mainly of volcanic rock and shale kind of tumbled together over time. And I guess they've come across, let's see how they put it, fossilized remains of basic aquatic life through some of these areas. So they use that to judge in the ocean cover different layers depending on what layers these remains are found within. That's just a taste. There's more. There it is. So, welcome to the Valley of Fire. It's a state park. A couple of ways to get here. One is a roadway in front of us, probably about an hour from downtown off the main highway. To the little guard shack off to a right, hour and a half. More scenic route, which will show you the way out. It's the first state park in Nevada. It was dedicated in 1935. Because it is a state park, they don't like us flying low level right over the middle of it, harassing people down there hiking around. Camping is possible down below in this immediate left little outcropping of rocks. Throughout the rest of the park, they have trails galore. Of course, little day rest areas, shelters, barbecues, things like that. There's also a visitor center about a third of the way down the access road on the left-hand side, tucked up on the rocks. You're looking at about 46,000 acres of sandstone, but it's rather unique. It has a high concentration of iron ore impregnated within it. And so the iron will rust or oxidize. This is the result you get, is the burnt red coloration you can see. Now, some of the rocks, they say, date back as old as about 600 million years, and they've come across petroglyphs, stone carvings, dating back pretty close to 2,000 years old. So mankind's been passing through for a while, but no one's really sticking around. Beyond the Valley of Fire is a town called Overton, Nevada. Stop to the left of that is Logandale. I only mention it because during your research for your trip to Vegas, you may have heard about the heavy rains we had a few weeks ago, some flooding in Logandale and Overton. That's where they're located. So I guess they've recovered fairly well by comparison to what happened to them, but if you're curious of proximity to Vegas, well, that's where they are.
A lot of rain also makes it greener, the hills. Typically in the summer it's browner, isn't it?
Very true. Very true. This is it's actually unique that it's this green in the winter, so to speak. We're used to seeing it more so in the springtime. We've had rain on and off the last 9 to 10 weeks, and after the first few rainstorms, it warmed up unseasonably warm for the wintertime, for December, if you will. That being the case, these plants were, I guess you could say, tricked into blooming, if you will. It's been this nice green coloration on and off throughout probably the end of December through all of January up until today, if you will. So by the time it hits June or July, it's 120 out here, it's brown again. So this is our one opportunity, well, for the next few weeks anyway, to enjoy the green plant life. Now, as we leave the edge of the Valley of Fire and cross over the eastern side of the Muddy Mountains, we're approaching more of Lake Mead. It's going to take me the entire flight to show you the whole lake. It's pretty big. It's about, I don't know. Well, they actually say it's the largest man-made body of water in the Western Hemisphere. Man-made because it was created upon the completion of the Hoover Dam construction. Now, the dam was built to dam up the Colorado and the Virgin Rivers. Did a pretty effective job. They backed up, swelled over the banks, and filled the lake, which took, give or take, about 7 years. Now, the lake has risen and fallen a number of times since then, and I'll give you some numbers to think about later on. Suffice to say, for now, the level's fairly low compared to where it has been. This arm in front of us is considered the Overton Arm, Overton, Nevada, and it's fed by the Virgin River coming down into Utah. Flows south, connects to the Colorado, then off towards the Hoover Dam. Well, okay, I'll show you that part later. Talk to you about that section as we're flying across it. Now, they say the Overton Arm here, okay, or the Virgin River, depending how you want to look at it, long before the dam was built, actually had cattle ranches on the shoreline of them. Excuse me, on the shoreline of it, of the Virgin River. Once the dam was built, the river swelled up and flooded over its banks, flooded out these ranches. Well, why am I telling you this? The lake level dropping down as it has been in recent times has started exposing the foundations of these ranch homes through the water surface and the shoreline. If you're in a boat, you know where to go. You can find them apparently on the shore. I've tried looking from the air. It's hard to see from up here. And as far as history goes, the military crashed a bomber out here in 1952 or 53 just off to the right of those islands. It's mostly intact, still underwater, about 115 feet down, so I heard last August, from the top of the surface of the water to the tip of the tail. They were conducting, as the story goes, early GPS testing, which I guess didn't go very well. There's a plane down there. All I'm saying, a lot of history down here, slowly coming to the top again. Even some buildings and water tanks out by the Hoover Dam in that little spot, which are now water hazards. Now, summertime, boats galore. You'll see them everywhere. Houseboating, sailing, fishing, water skiing, jet skiing, snorkeling, scuba diving. It's all out here, especially in the summertime. Well, wintertime, you see the diehards. You might see a couple of boats as we're flying across the lake in different areas. If we don't see any boats for scale or for comparison of size, I can tell you we're going across the lake about a half mile above the surface, if that helps you any. close across the shoreline. You can tell where the high water mark was. I mean, the coloration changes rather quickly here. There's more evidence I can show you later on as well. Even the vegetation changes. Speaking of vegetation, they say the canyon has over 1,200 varieties of plant life. Will we see 1,200 varieties today? No. We'll see a few dozen, I'm sure. I can point out, let's see, barrel cactus, ocotillo cactus, Joshua tree, Brigham tea plant, creosote bush, and like I say, we'll probably find a dozen or two more. But I'll be honest, I don't know the names to. I can make them up, but it's not much fun. We'll stick with what we know. One thing I'll say, and it sounds silly to even say it, please don't walk into a cactus. Okay, I know you don't plan on it. About a year ago, I actually watched a person in the video camera, not watching they were going, walked right into a 2-foot barrel cactus. Not too happy about it. They were in jeans, but still, you don't want to get any thorns or needles in your shins if you can help it. As far as the rattlesnakes go, slim to no chance. It's winter time. Although if you see any, let me know. I'm always curious to find a winter rattlesnake.
Don't want to walk into any of those either.
That would be bad. Even worse than a cactus. They tend to chase you. Now, the further into the hills we end up going towards the east, the better our chances of finding mine shafts. They say Nevada has 28,000 abandoned mine shafts, which obviously we won't see 28,000 today. We'll probably find a couple of them. What have they mined in the past? Gold, silver, copper, mica, mercury, zinc, and manganese were all mined throughout different parts of Nevada at one point in time or another. The mine shafts we'll probably come across, if we see any, little black holes in the side of the hill, about 5 to 6 feet tall. Some have wooden supports around the opening. Most of them have like a dirt access road leading to them. It's usually the first giveaway. Now, if I can find any for you, which I've seen in the past, I'll be sure to point them out again. I'll do what I can, take you to similar areas where I've spotted them. Likewise, if you see any, speak up. Let me know where the mine shafts are. I'm always curious to find new ones, if at all possible. Now, as we fly further up this little box canyon, we may come across what appear to be like sheets of corrugated metal, the wavy aluminum metal. I guess the Park Service built these water collection tables a while back to measure the rainfall in different areas, so that's what these things are. They look like big tables, pretty much. We'll see people driving the trucks out here, dirt bikes especially. Camping is pretty popular over off to the northwest or left of where we currently are, so anything's possible. Yeah, there's one of them in front of us. It'll pass by on the right side. Nothing exciting. People wonder what it is. It's either that or missile silo. So we'll go with the whole water collection thing. Just sounds less threatening. Now, the one mine shaft I can almost always show you, well, I can always fly past it. The question is whether we can see it or not. We'll be up on the right side in about a minute. It's like a little drainage off to our right, a little stream bed, whatever you want to call it. It kind of winds back and forth in front of us and makes a right turn, as you can see, and runs into the side of the hill. And it has some gray rock falling off the side of it. Well, as we fly next to it, look out the right side, you'll be looking into the mine. I promise I won't fly into the hill. I'll look at the hill. You guys look for the mine shaft. This is the one I can usually show you every time. It'll be on the right side. Is it exciting? Not necessarily, but it's something different to see. Right about... There's the hole right next to that gray rock. I'm assuming it's a mine because all the rock's coming on the outside of it. I really don't know. I haven't landed to go check it out, but it's possible, I guess. And over the next ridge is Clint Eastwood. Oh no, okay, he's not out here either. But in this perspective, you might see a little complex off to the left mixed in amongst all the rocks. There's a couple of plywood-colored buildings and a white travel trailer over there. I've been asking around. People actually are working out here. I don't know specifically what they're doing. The best estimation I've been told is there's some kind of an active mine in the hills are still working. I don't think it's a corporation. It's more like a small partnership or something. But people over there, still I stay over here. I figure why bug them if we can help it. I'm guessing this area up here is a relatively high water table, some kind of a natural well or spring because of all the plants we can see. It actually kind of starts in a very definitive line. Not to mention there's a pond up against the rocks off to the left, which, you know what, even in the middle of July, there's still water out here. So I can't believe somebody's, paying to truck water out and let it evaporate. As far as the corral on the left, a couple of years flying around, I haven't seen one creature in that corral. We'll probably see more throughout our flight. Maybe burros, horses, somebody way back when needed that corral for one purpose or another. Springtime, we'll see bald eagles and red-tailed hawks along the thermals here in this little ridge. It isn't spring as of yet, but, I mentioned every flight, you never know when they might start coming back to town, starting to warm up. From here. Now, from this perspective, we're looking at more of Lake Mead off to the right. I point this part out to you because of the white staining in the rock surface. You can see that's a high water mark. The level can't get any higher than that. It's actually a mineral deposit. You see there are a couple of channels back at the dam that the water will bypass through if the level gets any higher than this. That's why it is where it is. Now, the lake has gone down about 87 feet in the last 6.5 years, even more in addition to that time period, but that's the greatest amount lost in the shortest span of time. Primary cause, they say, is a reduction in snowfall below the seasonal average. Therefore, snowfall in the Rocky Mountains, to clarify. Therefore, reducing the amount of meltwater we end up receiving coming down the rivers to fill the lake. So, it will drop down. Now, from this perspective, good example of tectonic plate movement off the left in front of us. These are all layers of rock tilted up on edge, 40, 50 degrees possibly. We can see over there the red and white stripes in the rock. I'm guesstimating they're probably layers of sandstone and limestone.
Is that a town off to the right-hand side?
It is, actually. That's Meadview. Meadview, Arizona, actually. It's a retirement town now. It used to be a mining town at one point in time. I was going to talk about it later on, but we can point it out while we're looking at it. The unique thing about Meadview, I've been told, there are only 4 or 5 home sites in Meadview that can view Lake Mead, the right of the ridgeline. Everyone else is far enough back in the mesa in a bit of a bowl or depression, so they can't see over the ridge, see the lake they're named after, which seems ironic to me. The Meadview can't view Lake Mead. I don't know. That's that borderline boring, interesting trivia. Now off to the left, next to red and white stripes, you'll see a body of water, kind of landlocked, small lake, big pond, however you want to look at it. There's a brown river flowing next to it, winds back and forth, and comes to a canyon called Iceberg Canyon we're about to cross. It's at the south end. Well, the river is the Colorado River, and it flows on through Iceberg Canyon, comes up the south side, changes color rather quickly, as you can see, brown to green within a couple of meters. Yards, however you want to look at it. In my opinion, the lake starts there. It looks more like a lake and less like a river. Now, I've been told the reason this has occurred is because the width and depth of the river, of the canyon, if you will, has increased dramatically. So the river has slowed down, allowing a lot of the sediment to sink out the riverbed. It cleans up quickly, as you can see. Why do I show you now? Well, another reason, when I started flying here, that area where it currently changes color, brown to green, was up over here. Mile and a half upstream at least. It was all green lake water beneath us and around the corner. Now, if the lake levels dropped down enough, it's caused the river to, I guess you'd say, move downstream to where it is now. Now, in addition to Meadview, off to the right, there is also a dirt runway you can see on the north tip of the mesa. The mesa is called Grapevine Mesa, and the runway is called Pierce Ferry Airstrip. We'll fly right next to it on the way home, so I'll give you some trivia on that once we pass by it on the way home. Off to the left, you can see the river, the Colorado that is. It has a lot of brown and green plants around it, very lush and green in the spring and summertime. I mention this, or I point this area out to you, because current maps, even today, still label that section as being considered Lake Mead. I mean, at one point in time, that was Lake Mead. 10, 12, 14 years ago, it was covered in lake water. An example of this is that road in front of us we're going to cross over. It proceeds in front of us down to the left to a dried up mud puddle, which was a boat launch at one point in time. Now the good news is, if that's Lake Mead, we're pretty much the Grand Canyon, because the lake starts where the canyon stops. So this must be the west end in front of us. And it is. It's called these are called the Grand Wash Cliffs. They mark the west end. We'll cross over in a few minutes, get you inside the national park, as well as over some Indian reservation, which we'll talk about later on. We know the horizontal lines are an indication that rock was created through a sedimentary process. We already talked about that. Scientists believe, depending who you ask, that long before the canyon was ever here, there was a mountain range 1.7 billion years ago. And it was all but worn away over time and slowly was layered upon by all the sedimentary layers on top of it. The first sedimentary layer was a layer of shale, the Bass Formation, I believe it was called, and that was laid down about 1.3 billion years ago. Now, some of the youngest rock is obviously towards the top. It's a layer of limestone. It's about 250 million years old. I guess I'd say the upper third of the canyon varies in age from 250 to about 600 million years old. So it's relatively old. They do say there was rock younger than this out here at one point in time, although a great majority of it's already been worn away over time, so that's probably the best example of quote-unquote young rock. If you consider a 250 million years old to be young, it's all relative. You might see we're kind of merging together with the traffic. One helicopter over there, a couple in front of us. There's actually a couple behind us off to the right as well, too. It's a popular place. Well, it's official, I guess. I can actually say, welcome to the Grand Canyon. We're crossing the west end right now. Now, this thing is huge. It's 277 river miles long, starting by the Glen Canyon Dam at Lake Powell, which is that direction, winding back and forth towards the west, coming off my shoulder on the left side where the St. Lake Mead starts. Now, depending on where you measure it, it's probably anywhere from half mile to 6 miles across, edge to edge, the section of canyon we're going to fly through today, and 3,500, almost 4,000 feet from the rim down to the river. Talked about how the rock was created. You're also, I'm sure, well aware how the rock was destroyed in a sense. Colorado wore away at the canyon walls over about 6 million years of use. Even today, though, still grinding away one layer at a time. The fine silty debris stays suspended in the water. That's why it's a muddy brown coloration, as you can see. Now, up in the cliff line up in front of us there, you can see a blue-gray building, a white tent formation. That area is actually called Guano Point. It's one of the observation areas that buses could stop at in Vegas. They'd drive out here, stop, look over the west end, have a barbecue, take some pictures, drive home. The whole trip is probably 7 to 8 hours round trip, depending who you book it with. Now, just off the left of Guano Point, you'll see a couple of structures built up on the cliff. They're actually called the Bat Towers. You'll see them as you fly by. They were built in 1951, I believe, and the cable is strung from there across the river to the bottom of the north side, creating a tram system. They were hauling workers back and forth to a cave down below, into the cave so that they could, I guess you'd say, mine that guano. Bring it up the south side, sell it to fertilizer companies. I guess it makes good fertilizer. Now, the cable was removed years ago due to damage and not replaced, but the towers are still there, so we have a conversation piece as we fly by. Now, on this tour, we're actually going to take you through the canyon twice today, a couple of times, really. That would be twice, I guess. Yeah, that works. First time through is kind of a higher altitude bird's eye view on the way through. We'll head up back towards what's called Quartermaster Canyon. From there, we'll depart and go to an airport up on top. We'll actually have to land and get some fuel for our flight home. Takes like 4 or 5 minutes, not long at all. Once we're done up there, we'll go ahead and re-enter the canyon right here at the Bat Towers. So we descend down closer to the river, take you into our landing spot. So you have a good up-close personal view. Now, I'm sure you recall Evel Knievel and his exploits in the motorcycle in the 60s and 70s, jumping the Snake River, etc. Well, his son Robbie Knievel kind of followed in his footsteps. He jumped the Grand Canyon May of '99. Now, he couldn't jump right to left or left to right. It's a couple of miles across. The section he jumped was called Descent Canyon. It's over off to the right. At this point, we're crossing the bottom of Descent. He jumped the top of Descent. I'll show you where he jumped in a few minutes. Turning into Quartermaster Canyon here. About a third of the way back is that formation called Gun Sight. We then depart out towards the airport up on top. Now, a minute ago, we crossed the bottom of the St. Canyon. Now we're across the top of the St. Canyon. Good view out the right side across the river to the north rim. Very picturesque. Slightly less photogenic, but important to me is the airport on the left side, where the fuel truck is. We'll land there in just a minute, get some fuel. As far as where Robbie Knievel jumped, I'll show you when we leave the airport. Now, I mentioned a while ago, Robbie Knievel jumped the canyon. He jumped the top of the St. Canyon. We're about to cross from the far side to this side, right around in here. 226 feet across, ramp to ramp, I believe it was, of 228, May of 1999. He made it. He was fine. Well, physically he was fine. Mentally, I don't know if I would even do that, but he did. He succeeded.
Did it on a motorcycle?
He did. Now, the airport that we just departed from, as well as all the property you can see up here, and their landing spot down at the bottom, is all owned by the Wallapai Indian Nation. They own just under 1 million acres out here, 997,400 and something. And because of that, we're allowed to actually fly and land out here, because it's not the national park per se. That being said, up here, you'll probably come across fence lines and corrals. Not probably, almost definitely see them. And it's up over here we've seen the wild horses fairly commonly, not to mention the antelope deer. And off the Grand West Cliffs to the west was where I saw the cows and bison, of all things. Now, as we first entered the Grand Canyon, we flew past what I called Guano Point. That observation area is actually up in front of us now on the end of that little peninsula of land sticking out of the point, if you will. We're going to re-enter the canyon here, what we call Eternity Canyon, where we'll descend down around the bat towers, actually head past Quartermaster, which is where we departed for the airport, continue on towards our landing spot by the river.
I looked through there. Now, whitewater rafting does take place in the canyon. The closest set of rapids, I'm told, though, is about 40 miles upstream from our landing spot. So the kind of boats you might see down here, obviously calm water type. They do have boats even in this section coming and going just about every day on a tour. So you may see a few of them as we fly upriver. About the only way onto or off the river on this end is by helicopter. So any helicopters landing down the shoreline, or what we call the beach, they're picking up or dropping off the boaters, usually bringing them to the airport above. They hop on a plane or a bus and head back towards Vegas or other parts of Arizona. Head to what's called Quartermaster Notch here in front of us. We'll proceed over the ridge line over there, continue descending to our landing spot on the back side of the ridge. Kind of like we did up top. Please keep your belts on till we're on the ground. I don't have those fancy fasten seatbelt signs to turn off as you've seen, but I'll have you down on the ground just a minute. That's the competition. That's okay, they're a good company. Our landing spot's just actually further than theirs is all, so we'll pass them by. Updated in real time, so as our flight parameters change and the engine conditions change, that will show me how close I am to my first limiting amount of power I can utilize. Right. Does that make any sense? Yep. Okay, good. I kind of made it up on the fly. I want to make sure it sounded good. Now, earlier this evening, we actually went into Quartermaster Canyon to that formation called Gun Sight for the airport. Well, we've done that. We don't need any more fuel. We're fine. So when we reach about 3,500 feet, we'll make a U-turn, come back out, and then we'll head towards Jackson Canyon. At Jackson, we'll cross the river to the north side and follow the north rim all the way back out again.
snow on the hills. All right. Our elevation right here is about 5,000 feet above sea level, so I'm assuming that's close to 6,000. But we'll have snow out here on the rim in the wintertime and the right time of day, meaning it rarely drops below freezing, not counting wind chill, during the daytime. So any kind of snowfall that occurs out here is usually in the evenings or overnight. It doesn't last very long, though.
How many mesas do you usually get like this one on the right side in this area?
In regards to the appearance of the flats,
tabletop mesa.
just about all of them, because it's all sedimentary rock formation. It was all layer upon layer laid down over time, and we're actually flying, I guess, in the middle of a rock, or what used to be rock. It did go edge to edge until about 600 million years, or excuse me, 6 million years ago. So a great majority of them do appear like this, unless you have the mountains further in the distance, which would encroach further or closer to the edge line. In this neck of the woods where we're currently flying, they just about all appear similar to what we see right here.
as we come off the west end here, we're basically looking across 3 states. We're in Arizona. We've been in Arizona the entire time in the canyon. Off to the right is Utah, good, I think about 15, 20 miles up. I don't have a good geological reference to point out to you, or topographic reference to show you where the border is, but I know it's Utah in the distance. Nevada's in front of us, and we'll actually cross back and forth between Arizona and Nevada 6 times today. Basically, Lake Mead is a combination of the Virgin River, Colorado River, and the portion of it that is the Colorado is the state line, which we cross over, like I say, total about 6 times. So pretty easy in a couple hours flight. Coming off the west end, we saw Meadview, Arizona earlier. It's over there in the distance off to our left. And we also talked about that runway, the dirt runway on the north tip of the mesa. There's actually a Dirt X. It's Pierce Ferry Airstrip is what we're looking at. A couple pieces of trivia for you. The movie Thelma and Louise, apparently there was a scene from the movie filmed here using that runway. Now, I've been told it was the scene at the end where they drove off the cliff, but I've also heard that scene was filmed in, was it Dead Horse Canyon? What? I'd have to look it up. Anyway, I've heard that from multiple sources, so that could be true. Take it with a grain of salt. Something else I heard just last week, supposedly the military built this airport out here years ago to train fighter pilots to land in aircraft carriers, because the runway is the same length as the deck of an aircraft carrier. Is it? I don't know for sure. Like I said, I just heard that. I haven't looked it up, but kind of makes sense as to why there's an airport out here in the middle of nowhere, with basically no facilities around of any kind. I've been in 2 years of flying around here. I've seen 2 airplanes land there, and they took off as soon as they landed, so maybe it was some kind of a training flight. Now, in case you missed it earlier on, we flew across Iceberg Canyon. It's off to our right. You see the Brown River water over there. You probably already saw it, but I thought I'd point it out again in case you couldn't see it earlier. And on the south end is where it's changing color, brown to green. We talked about that as well. In my opinion, the lake starts there, and a couple of years ago, that was up around the corner. Things have changed considerably. Now, we saw the one boat launch back behind us, obviously no longer usable. There's another one off to our left down below. We may see a few boats in this end of the lake, although it's still kind of early. We've seen a few boats out here in recent days, but it's more popular, obviously, in the spring and summertime. We're going to end up merging together with a couple other helicopters. The one's over there about 9:30, 10 excuse me, 9:30, 10 o'clock. The other 2 are back behind us over there, but shouldn't be a factor. Just if I stop talking mid-sentence, I'm busy talking to those guys on the radio. Well, at this point, we're looking at more of Lake Mead that we haven't seen as of yet. Final part I have to show you is just across the ridge in front of us on the far side. We'll be there in 5-7 minutes, maybe. They say the lake has over 500 miles of shoreline. The last total I heard was in August of 513. That's about 110 miles long. Now, that being said, there's basically no development out here, as you can tell. It's all protected property. The closest thing resembling a town would be Temple Bar, Arizona. Across the lake, about 10 o'clock, you can see a couple of lights on the marina there. I'm told it's basically a glorified boat launch more than a town, but they do have some campsites, a ranger station, and a runway. You can fly there if you chose. I don't know why you'd want to, but it's possible. Now, the deepest part of Mead measured was years and years ago at 586 feet deep off the shore of Temple Bar. It's dropped down since then considerably, so it's no longer that deep, but relatively, compared to everything else, I'm sure it is still the deepest part. We're basically looking at the Colorado River on the left-hand side, as we talked about earlier. Off on the right side, that's the Overton Arm. They also call it the Northern Arm. That's the Virgin River. When we flew over that section, well, you can kind of see the Valley of Fire from where we are. It's about 2:30, almost 3 o'clock out there in the distance, so it's an idea of which way we've headed. Now, the Virgin River comes down south, connects to the Colorado, heads to a gap in the mountains on the west side called the Narrows. It's also known as Boulder Canyon. Now, the Narrows, or Boulder Canyon, was the primary choice for the construction of the Hoover Dam. They came out there, drilled some rock samples, analyzed them, didn't like what they saw. Thought the mountains are too fragile or brittle to support the weight of the dam and all the water behind it, so they continued downstream about 30 miles to Black Canyon. Drilled the rocks, analyzed them, liked it, built it, and that's where the dam stands today, as you'll soon see. In case you're curious where Vegas is, you see the lights in front of us, good 40 miles away. You can tell which way we're heading, so we're not lost as of yet. So hope is good that we'll make it back.
With his children, they began chipping away pieces of rocks every foot of the mountain. Wise then I and asked, how can you possibly think you can move the mountain? The old man said, probably I won't. But you see, I have children. My children will have children. And they will continue. And the mountain will be moved.
What are some of the deepest points in the lake?
The deepest point, the only one I'm aware of, is the one that I mentioned over here off Temple Bar at 586. I read about it in the book when I first moved here, and the book was written a number of years ago, so I mentioned it was probably, I'm guessing, 14 years old as far as the deepest measurement. Other than that, I couldn't tell you other deeper areas, or similarly deep areas, if you will. I've heard the guesstimation, the average depth between 50 and 150 feet, which is actually a pretty wide margin for average, but that's kind of the common numbers that are thrown about.
What's the shallowest part?
I guess it's all relative, close to the shoreline. 3 inches? You never know. Now, in front of us, you can see a bay up there. It's called Bonnelly Bay or Benelli Bay. My guess is it was probably double the size that it currently is, because all the land in front of us and off the right is covered in that same white mineral deposit we saw earlier, so I'm assuming it's covered in lake water. The historical significance of Benelli Bay, the first official expedition to come down the Colorado through the canyon and live to talk about it landed right around here in 1869, led by a man named John Wesley Powell, like Powell eventually named after him. Started off with 4 boats, 10 men, and 9 months of supplies. Finished here about 3 months later, 2 boats, 5 men, no supplies. So we lost half or all of it, or we started with pretty much. See Vegas obviously appearing in front of us in all its glory. We're going to cross this little ridge here. The whole thing is called Wilson's Ridge. The saddle off to the right is called Indian Pass. We're making a bump of turbulence coming across here. We do almost every day, kind of like Hidden Valley, nothing big. But once we're across this, then we'll head over Fortification Hill towards Hoover Dam. Talk about that in just a second. Now, Fortification Hill is a big dark hill in front of us. It's an extinct volcano. It hasn't been active for millions of years, they say. The name came about in the late 1850s, early 1860s, so the Mormons are coming west to settle in the area. They encountered some hostile Indians out here, wanted to build a fort to defend themselves. Well, they never did. There's no building up there, but we'll see mountain goats walking around occasionally, and there's actually a trail, a 6-mile-long trail leading to the top. I don't know where it begins down below. It looks pretty impossible. It's not. I've seen people up here, but that's got to be quite a hike because most of the mountain or hill looks like what we see here. Now, the lights in the distance aren't actually part of Las Vegas. They're part of a town called Boulder City. And Boulder City started off life as a tent city. It was built by the government to house the workers that were working on the Hoover Dam at the time. Now, even though construction of the dam was completed in the mid-30s, the government wouldn't release the land out there for public sale in 1960. Couldn't buy property until then. It's still kind of a unique town. It's one of the few in Nevada where it's illegal to gamble, which is fine. Vegas is right there. They'd love to have you gamble, so that part's not a problem. Now, the dam is appearing in front of us and off to the left down below. If you're in back, you can't see it yet, don't worry. I'll descend down so you have a good view of it. Construction of the dam began in 1931. It was completed in 35, actually ahead of schedule. They went through just a week shy of 2 years of concrete pouring to build that dam. Enough cement there, they say, to build a 16-foot wide highway from San Francisco clear across the U.S. to New York City. Now, the dam was built for many reasons, one of which was hydroelectric power generation. The turbine rooms are located on the riverside of the dam, as you'll soon see. I believe they have 17 turbines total. Their water source is Lake Mead, obviously. More specifically, though, it's 4 cement towers on the lake side of the dam. They're topped off in these conical-shaped structures on the top of them, obviously topped off. And they, of course, have the lights on them, so you can pick them out quite easily on this side of the dam. Carved out of the mountain on either side of these inlet towers are a couple of troughs lined in cement connected to tunnels. Those are the bypass channels, and they allow the water to bypass the dam so the level will get too high in the lake, which occurred most recently in 1983. What we're going to do is come up on the northwest corner of the dam here. I'll make a turn across the river so you can look out the left side of the dam, and then once we're over in Arizona, we'll cross back over the river, make a right turn, that is. You look out either side. Keep your cameras handy like you're doing. It's a one-way street. I can do the turn only once out here, so I'll slow down just a bit, make it easier, and I'll keep the camera and the nose panned over the whole time. You might see a construction project going on down below. That's a multi-year project. They're working on building a bridge to cross the river so they can divert the traffic off the dam onto the bridge. Should be completed 2008, I believe. Estimated cost $234 million. Well, they're both estimates. It'll probably take longer and cost more. Typically works that way. Well, you can see which way the highway ends up coming from or going to. You can see the lights in the distance. Boy, popular weekends like 4th of July weekend or whatnot, this road is just jam-packed with headlights. I can't imagine what the traffic is like down there as far as waiting time to cross the dam. September 11th, no small surprise, spurred on a lot of security upgrades here. They actually have checkpoints where they inspect the cars coming across, so the traffic slows to a crawl. Make a right turn, you have a good view out the right side. Don't worry, the doors almost never pop open on flights. You guys should be fine over there. Plus the water's soft, I'm told.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we got that going for us.
Thank you.
There it is. Now, as we leave the dam, we're going to come across the western shoreline of Lake Mead. There's a marina down in front of us. Not exciting to see, just a marina, but it's kind of unique. It wasn't always located here. The owners moved it from its original location, which was the northwest shore of Lake Mead, a little over 3 years ago. Spent about $2.5 million to move it down here, but they're still open. They wouldn't have been, as you'll soon see, if they stayed up there, and other marinas haven't been quite as fortunate. Now we know the water in Las Vegas comes from Lake Mead. The pumping and filtration plants in front of us, the orangey amber-colored lights up there in the distance. The catwalk with the white lights leading out to the lake is one of the water inlet pipes coming off that dark strip of land, which is actually called Saddle Island. Now, an aerial photo in 95 showed it was still an island. It was actually surrounded by lake water. They built a berm up to run a road out there so they could actually get the water from the lake. Things have changed in 10 years, obviously. It's no longer an island. It's part of the mainland. It's caused a lot of ruckus around here. Now, excuse me for a second. I have to call approach control, get some clearance, go inside the airspace. It takes just a minute or two. Once we get all that sorted out, I'll come back and talk to you. I have a few more things to show you. Worst case, I'll end up talking to by Lava Butte, which is up in front of us in the distance. I should be done probably by the time we finish the passing by the filtration plant, but we'll see how busy they are on the radios. In front of us are next to the parking lot where the marina was located. You can see not much of a marina left any longer. It's all pretty much dried up, with the exception of the Las Vegas Wash spilling to Lake Mead. Now, we talked briefly about the Las Vegas Wash and the fact that it flows through Lake Las Vegas, which is off to our left, by way of a couple of cement pipes. They say the pipes are installed there because the water in Lake Las Vegas is relatively clean. It's treated as like an emergency watershed. They have 3 of their own filters that continuously run to keep it as clean as possible. Therefore, they don't want the wash water mixing together. That's why the pipes are built. Give you some ideas where we've been so far. Like we did earlier, the lights in the distance, that's the gypsum plant. We talked about the James Bond movie being filmed there. Further off to the right, those hills over there on the far left side, they're crossed over that to get into Hidden Valley, then off to the Valley Fire. I see some flashing lights in front of us. Those are the helicopters that we passed earlier on. They didn't go to the dam, so we ended up falling in behind them. I don't believe anyone else is back behind them. I believe we're last in line, so we can kind of take our time, head back into the valley. What we're going to do is head towards Lava Butte, then we'll cross the south ridge of what's called Frenchman's Peak. When we do that, we'll pick up Charleston Boulevard and follow westbound until we hit Fremont Street. At Fremont, we'll hang a right, fly towards downtown. I want to show you downtown first. Then from there, we'll make a left turn, come down the far side of the strip, which you can kind of see from where we are now, about eye level at the restaurant, the Stratosphere Tower. And of course, I'll talk about casinos all along the way. That part's not a problem. I'll go into the history of Vegas in a minute. Once I cross the ridge, things should be quieting down for me on the radio at that point. They usually hand me off the control tower, and I'll be done talking on the radio by then, so I can get a lot more chatty once we're up there. Vegas Valley. Before I forget to point it out, off to the right is Nellis Air Force Base. You can see the runways are fairly well lit up right now. They claim they're the largest Air Force base in the U.S. I don't know if that's entirely true, but all the training areas north of here in the mountains are all theirs. So you'll end up seeing fighter jets, odds are, during your stay here in Vegas, buzzing around the Northtown area. Beyond that, the lights in the grandstand of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, you may see some races going on here in the springtime when you come out. And actually, if you do, look us up. We do a shuttle service back and forth with a helicopter. Kind of cool. Saves some time in traffic. Population in Vegas, I'm going to guesstimate about 1.5 billion, as it depends on who you ask. I've looked at different websites trying to get better approximations, and I've seen 1.3 to 1.65 million, so I'll say 1.5. Everyone's fairly consistent, though, in saying we have between 3,000 and 4,000 people moving into town monthly, so we're growing leaps and bounds. Now, long before Vegas is ever a city or a town or a settlement, the first people to pass through would have been the Spanish explorers coming off the Spanish Trail. And it wasn't until 1835 when John Fremont came to town. He was the first American explorer to pass through. They named Fremont Street and Fremont Hotel after him. Let's see, it was the early 1900s. Vegas became a city. Right around the same time gambling was legalized in Nevada. New casinos kind of popped up in the downtown area. Did fairly well for themselves, obviously. Although it wasn't until 1946 when Bugsy Siegel came to town. He actually built the Flamingo in the middle of nowhere, which now is right in the heart of the Strip. It's been rebuilt since then, but it's still a landmark, so we talk about it as we're flying by. And although he technically wasn't the first on the Strip, he was the third one. He was the first with the idea of the all-encompassing spa, resort, casino package deal. Now, he was killed in 47, never got to see what came of his idea, so to speak, but it's done pretty well for itself, I must say. The 60s and 70s brought investors the caliber of Howard Hughes, multimillionaires building multi-million-dollar casinos. And now we have investors, well, if you will, casino moguls like Steve Wynn, building Wynn Las Vegas, $2.5 billion mega resort, the only building that is unlit at this point in time on the Strip, and we'll see it more closely as we come down the Strip in just a minute. You might have Elvis singing to you in your headset. You're in Vegas, got to hear some Elvis, we'll play it, get out of the way. I used to sing for you, but they don't let me do it. It ruins the tape, so I'll let him sing for himself. Downtown's off to the right. We'll turn towards it just a second. There's an archway separating a lot of the casinos down there, which is called the Fremont Street Experience. It was built in 1995. The inside of the arch was initially lined with a couple of million incandescent lights for a computer-controlled light show that goes on at night, but they finished a remodel probably about 7.5, 8 months ago, removing the incandescents, putting in LEDs on higher resolution of this light show. Now, casino owners like to say downtown casinos, the slot machines are a bit looser, table games are better odds, better chance of winning. Is this true? I don't know for sure, but it is a neat part of Vegas. If you have time, head on down, check out the older casinos, see the way it used to look. It's been remodeled slightly, but still has some of an old town Vegas flair. As we turn away from downtown, we can see on the left side the Strip is capped off on the north end by the Stratosphere Tower, 1,105 feet tall. That includes that red structure on top, which is the Big Shot ride. They also have the roller coaster going around and around, and the X-Scream ride was the final ride until yesterday, the day before. They had a helicopter, a big Sikorsky Sky Crane, lift the parts for a fourth ride up there in the morning time. It's going to be called the Insanity Ride. You might see the structure, it's kind of C-shaped on this near side. It's not lit as of yet. They haven't finished the construction, but the parts are up there anyway. There is a nice observation deck at the top of the Stratosphere, and the restaurant behind the glass windows revolves one time every hour. Pretty good view from dinner. Next in line is Circus Circus, or they have the Adventure Dome in the back of Circus Circus, which is where they have the High Wire Act, arcade games, amusement rides. Kind of the last family-oriented casino out here. You can actually have that sort of thing. Across the street, Steve Wynn's place. Oh, excuse me a second. I'm sorry, Steve Wynn's place on the left, $2.5 billion, I wasn't kidding. A few $100 million more expensive than anything else out here. But he's got a golf course in the back that had to remodel, so maybe it's worth that much. I don't know, we'll see. He's going to have it open this coming April. Frontier is right across the street, down below on the left. Older casino, big chunk of property. Supposedly Donald Trump's going to build Trump International on the back of this piece of property the next couple of years, so we'll see what happens. Treasure Island, also called the TI, has a pirate ship battle out front. The Mirage is right next door with the water volcano in front and the secret garden in the back. Between the Mirage and Caesar's Palace, you'll see a round building like the Coliseum or Celine Dion's Auditorium, whatever you like to call it. Just over 4,000 seats in that building, fairly large. Next door to Caesar's is the Bellagio. The pond in front we know is for the fountain show. good place to the fountain show is the top of the Eiffel Tower across the street. And definitely go at night. I think all the outdoor shows are better here at night. Now, Bally's was the original MGM Grand, built in 72 or 73, sold off, remodeled, renamed in the 80s. Well, the original owners built the MGM Grand to replace it. Over 5,000 rooms. Biggest hotel on the Strip. It surpasses Excalibur, which used to be the biggest, just under 4,000. Next door to Excalibur, perfect timing. Luxor Pyramid, the lights turned on. Actually, I believe there's like 7 or 8 beams in there that actually create that beam of light. They say it's one of a handful of man-made objects that can be seen from space, because that light beam is the brightest light in the world. You can see it from the space shuttle on a clear night. As you can see, more and more light beams are turning on with it. And it's pretty bright, that's for sure. Mandalay Bay, last but not least, the 2 towers. Behind him, you'll see a bunch of pools down below. The man-made wave pool is the first pool you'll see. Closed off in the wintertime, open spring and summer. Pretty popular place to be. They even have concerts out here on the shoreline in the evenings on the weekends, every 4 to 6 weeks in summer. Now we'll turn in between the Mandalay Bay and the Valley High Golf Course. I have one more piece of trivia to pass on to you. It's in regards to Area 51. That top secret government base doesn't exist. Did I tell you guys about this? White jets, red stripes? I think I may have. They're in a parking lot off to the left. A total of 5 of them now, 6 in the fleet. They're the ones that fly the employees back and forth every day. Come on down to the taxiway here so we can make our way back in towards the ramp. Now, security's a lot tighter, September 11th and whatnot. I mean, I had to walk you out to the helicopter. It sounds crazy, but I have to walk you back in, even though I know where the doors are.